Yeah, guys, don't look at me like that. It's absolutely true. But anyway, these are 5 amazing killer builds that help you to get 4Ks more often. Build number 3, though, is going to change your life. And now, without further ado, after you've obviously have subscribed, let's start with build number 1. And the first build of this video is called 4 Hacks. It consists of Crowd Control, Blood Favor, Undying, and Pentimento. This build seems like an odd choice to run, however it is absolutely clutch in entering chases and makes it extremely easy sometimes to end a chase in the fastest manner possible. Every time you injure the survivor by any means, Blood Favor is in play, denying pellets in a certain radius to be put to use. Further, Crowd Control blocks windows up to 20 seconds once a fast fall has been performed, and Undying simply extends the use of both of these perks as much as possible. Pentimento isn't really a long shot here, as it's used to put some gen pressure on the survivors, as the first Pentimento stack grants a 30% gen repair penalty for survivors. This will not only slow down gens, but also will force them to get rid of that rekindled totem as fast as possible, and further, in that time they won't be working on gens. The other stacks in my opinion aren't really necessary, and you don't really mention them at all. This build works awesome on killers that have a hard time with loops around pallets. Trickster and Huntress are both decent choices when it comes to this. Let us not ignore the Plague though, as she is super reliant in injuring people consistently and efficiently. Her overall playstyle makes the perk Blood Favor really come to life. Build number 2 of this video is called Endgame Can Come. It consists out of No Way Out, Remember Me, Bloodworn, and the new perk Terminus. This build is designed for the endgame phase and is truly terrifying when you're on the survivor side. Terminus makes every survivor broken once every generator has been triggered. Obviously, this only works if the survivor is being injured during the phase or if he was previously injured. However, as a little side note here, Terminus is an awesome late game perk which is totally underutilized but works almost disgustingly well on some killers. To make most use out of the fact that most of the survivors are broken now, you run No Way Out. No Way Out grants 12 seconds for each hooked survivor to its 12-second base value where the gates are simply blocked. So in theory, once the gates are touched, they can't be opened by at least 12 up to 60 seconds, which is already absolutely insane. Further contributing to this is Remember Me. This perk is a Freddy perk and is rarely seen nowadays. Every time the obsession is hit, you're granted 1 token up to 4 in total. Each token adds 4 seconds to the exit gate opening time, meaning that in total you could trap survivors in the trial for up to 96 seconds, as gates now take 36 instead of 20 seconds. Please keep in mind though that the obsession won't be affected by the gate speed nerf, and maybe for this build you should consider tunneling them out as soon as you can. The last perk to mention here is Bloodworn. Once the exit gates are open and the survivor gets hooked during that period, the entity blocks all the exit gates for up to 60 seconds. This obviously helps you further in clutching up the game. I know how difficult it is to get full value out of all of these perks. Considering it all, Terminus or Bloodworn could both be replaced by Know It, as Terminus, if you will, works a bit like Know It, you'd rather swap it for that. This build is best played on M1 killers in my opinion. Unreal and Freddy seem like decent choices here. If you decide to run Terminus though, I have to, yet again, give it to the Plague. And now let's get to build number 3, and build number 3 is called Nothing. It is out of Nothing, which is played with Nothing, added with even more Nothing, and is topped off with one of the best perks in game, Nothing. This build is a vibe and a half. Nothing is one of the strongest assets here, as it provides nothing, grants you nothing, and won't hinder you in absolutely nothing. Further along, Nothing is played. Nothing will help you in chase. Therefore, Nothing will grant you downs, and because this build in the end is topped off with Nothing, we won't be able to secure any hook stages whatsoever. Nothing also won't help you to stop gens from regressing, and the survivors will escape easier than ever, as Nothing will stop them on their own way to glory, fame, and success. As add-ons for this mastermind of a build, I also recommend that Nothing is played, as you won't need any help while achieving Nothing in Dead by Daylight. As you have Nothing when you start this game for the very first time, I highly recommend this build to newer players. Killer beginners will immediately get used to the idea of being able to do nothing while being shit and stomped on while playing this game. As I said, as you have Nothing, play this build with one of these starter characters. Survivors can see Nothing when the Wraith is cloaked, so you'd rather pick him. And now, with our build number 4, let's get back to serious business, and it's called Heals, not with me, because it's of Sloppy Butcher, Distressing, Coulrophobia, and Unnerving Presence. By the way, I like this build so much. Yeah, it even could be considered one of my favorite builds in the entirety of Dead by Daylight. But however, let's dive into it and dissect it further. First, we're playing Coulrophobia. This perk slows down the healing speed by 50% and further makes healing skill checks 50% faster while they are inside of your terror radius. To extend your terror radius, we play Distressing. It grants you some extra blood points in exchange for a slightly bigger terror radius. Unnerving Presence works in the same manner as Coulrophobia. It activates once the survivors have entered your terror radius. This perk shrinks the skill check zone by 50% and increases the chance of triggering a skill check by 10%. This one on its own already is mean enough, especially when you play killers like Wesker that from scratch have an enormous 40-meter terror radius. This is simply huge. And if you then add a map offering like the Gideon Meat Plant or RPD to this build, this could be, or could make the healing process literally impossible. The last perk to mention here is Sloppy Butcher. It affects Mangled and therefore extends the healing time of survivors. A nice side effect of Sloppy Butcher: if a heal is interrupted and stopped by any means, the healing progress regresses over a short amount of time. Sad when you have battled Coulrophobia in such a big way, I have to start all over again. As mentioned, Wesker is a huge beneficiator from a build like this. Doctor is a second guy to mention, as his madness makes the skill check zones jump across the screen. Also, he has some awesome add-ons that also increase his terror radius further. Be annoying and see skill checks being failed with this mastermind of a build. And the fifth and final build of this video is called Eat My Pallets. It consists out of Enduring, Brutal Strength, Spirit Fury, and one of my favorite perks, Jolt. Eat My Pallets is a build that is an awesome policy to make sure that pallets won't be a problem for you. Enduring reduces the pallet's stun duration by 50%, Brutal Strength fastens the pallet generator and breakable walls kicking speed by 20%, and for every second pallet that have been destroyed by you, Spirit Fury activates. Spirit Fury immediately destroys a pallet after you have been pallet stunned because of the aforementioned Enduring perk. You're stunned less and can catch up shortly after you have just been stunned. This perk works awesome on M1 killers. Myers, Freddy, as well as Pig or Onyo are all decent choices for this build. The fact that these type of killers profit from it most makes Jolt an awesome addition to this perk sub, and in my opinion needs little to no explanation. And this concludes the 5 killer builds for this video. Which build did you like most? Let me know down below in the comments. I have a Discord, I have a Patreon, yada yada yada. Class is dismissed. Bye.